Okay, I know that some of you were out last week and it has been a weekend, so you probably have forgotten. So we're going to go ahead and go over example 1 again, and this time we probably will not have the space issues we had before. So during Eastern's last football game, the speed of a football kicked down the field could be modeled by the equation f of x equals negative 16x squared plus 176x, where x represents time in seconds and f of x represents the height of the football in feet. So we've got some things that we need to do. We need to draw a picture depicting the path of the ball. We need to find out the distance traveled in feet of the ball. Find out how high the ball was after 5 seconds. Find out the maximum height, and find out that if Jonte kicked the ball over the goalpost. So, moving right along, we need to draw that picture. So, of course, we're going to need an x-axis and we're going to need a y-axis. So, and of course, we don't have to worry about negatives because we know that footballs don't go in negative directions. So we have height over here, which we know that f of x can be y. So height is f of x, and we plot it on our y-axis. We know that time is x. And of course, we're going to start at 0 and x equals 0. The time the ball was kicked off, and we know balls kind of do something like this without that little spike in the middle. So let's do that over because we don't need the spike in the middle. They kind of do that. We don't know what the time x is, but we do know that this is a parabola. We also know that it points down. That points down. So it has a maximum. And as we had earlier, it looks a little bit like this. So that's our picture. We need to know the distance traveled in feet. So we can erase that. But it turns out that we can divide both negative 16 and 176 by 16. So we can take this and we can factor out a negative 16. We see that both x squared and 176x also have a x, at least one x in common. So negative 16x squared divided by negative 16x. I can cancel both of those out and I'm left with x. By the same token, I can also take 176x and divide it by negative 16x. My x is canceled, so this will be negative 11. So this will wind up being the quantity x minus 11. So they want to know how much is y when x, I'm sorry, I keep getting x when y equals 0. So I can use my zero product property. 0 equals negative 16x. 0 equals x minus 11. Divide here by negative 16. Add 11 here. So x equals 11 and x equals 0, which corresponds to our little graph. So x equals 0, x equals 11, positive 11, and 11 minus 0 is 11 feet. So the ball traveled 11 feet. So moving right along, seeing as our computer is in a little bit of a hurry, this time I want to know how much time is on my x-axis. So everywhere I see an x, I want to put a 5. So y equals negative 16 times 5 squared plus 176 times 5. And when we put that in our calculator, we should come up with 480 feet. So our ordered pair, if we so chose to write it that way, should be 5 for x and 480 for y. But what about that maximum? What was that maximum height? So, okay, x equals negative b over 2a, which we will remember from studying the parabola. That is our axis of symmetry. Which in this case is an x value. So since we know that a is negative 16, b is positive 176, and since we don't have a c term, that should be 0. This should be negative 176 divided by 2 times a negative 16. And a negative divided by a negative is a positive, so this is x equals 5.5. Well, now we have an x value. We can use it to find our y value. Because everywhere we see an x, again, we're going to put 5.5. So negative 16 times 5.5, and we square that, plus 176 times 5.5. When we put that in our calculator, we should get 484. So that ordered pair is 5.5 for x and 484 for y. Last but not least, we want to know, if Jonte is standing 30 feet away from the goal post and the post was 25 feet tall, we want to know if the football successfully made it through the goal post. Okay. We're going to use a piece of something that you probably have already met, and that thing is called the quadratic formula. And the piece that we're going to use is called the determinant. And that part is b squared minus 4ac. And if the determinant is greater than 0, which means that it's positive, it will go over the goalpost. If it's equal to 0, it will hit the goalpost. If it's less than 0, also known as negative, it will not go over. So, in this case, we know again, A is negative 16, B is positive 176, C is 0. So B squared minus 4AC can be substituted in as negative 176 squared minus that 4 that will always be there, times negative 176, negative 16 times 0. Negative 4 times negative 16 times 0 will simply be 176 squared minus 0, which is 176 squared, which without even doing the calculation, we know that anything squared is always positive. So since that is about 39,400, which is positive, we can say that the ball will go over the goalpost.